My dad gave the family company to my golden boy brother and called me just labor. I resigned quietly. Weeks later, their biggest client offered me a director position. When the family business lost that contract, they called me begging for help. My family business always acted like my brother was the crown prince and I was the guy who carried his throne. So, I finally said, nah, not doing that forever, and built something better for myself. But, of course, they weren't done trying to pull me back. Before we get there, let me start from the beginning. Name's Dylan Pierce, 29. Specialized field tech for my family's company. I work on heavy industrial machines, the kind where small misalignments cause big problems. And when I say family, I mean my parents and my older brother Grant, who somehow got crowned the future emperor of the place before he could even grow a full beard. I'm the guy who actually knows how to run the equipment, fix the machines, handle the on-site messes, and keep clients from calling in a panic. Grant's job is mostly pretending he invented business strategy while hiding behind a computer screen. Anyway, our shop's been around forever. My dad, Howard, started it before I was born, and he acts like the walls should bow whenever Grant walks by because he has a degree. Meanwhile, I'm the one out there every day doing the part nobody else wants to learn. It's specialized work, hands-on, precision stuff that most people mess up even after months of training. But sure, Grant's the genius. So, on this particular morning, I was wrapping up a big project for our biggest client. One of those jobs where if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you can wreck a pile of equipment and a month's worth of scheduling. But for me, it's just another Tuesday. Logan Brooks, the rep for the client, was standing there watching as I nudged the alignment back where it should be and reset the sensor. When the machine came up smooth, no shudder, no warning lights, Logan finally exhaled. "Man, Dylan, thank you," he said, shaking his head. "I swear every time this thing glitches, I just hope you're the one who shows up." I shrugged. "Yeah, well, I like when things work instead of exploding. Keeps the day simple." He laughed, relieved. You could tell he appreciated that someone actually knew what they were doing. I packed up my tools, thinking for once the day might end without the usual nonsense. And then right on schedule, Grant Pierce strolls in. Perfect timing, meaning everything difficult was already done. He walks like he's arriving for a Nobel Prize ceremony. Not a job site he's never touched. "Excellent," he said, clapping his hands once. "My team executed my plan perfectly. Exactly the outcome we projected." I just stared at him because I didn't remember any plan except me fixing everything myself while he was probably indoors color-coding email folders. Logan looked over at him with this confused half-smile, like he was trying to place whether Grant was joking or just whatever he is. But Logan's professional, so he just nodded politely. Grant kept going, throwing out big words like he swallowed a thesaurus over breakfast. "This is what streamlined coordination looks like. I'll relay the success metrics to upper management." Upper management, it's a family business. Upper management is literally our parents eating lunch at the same desk. I stayed quiet, leaning on my toolbox, watching my brother act like he masterminded something he couldn't physically perform, even with a printed instruction manual and subtitles. My favorite part was when he gestured at the equipment like he actually knew what half those parts did. When Logan turned back to me, his expression said everything. Confusion, embarrassment, a tiny bit of pity, but he didn't call Grant out. He's too respectful for that kind of drama. Grant eventually wandered off, probably to go tell our dad how his plan saved the day. I just sighed and wiped down the tools. "Does he always do that?" Logan asked quietly once Grant was out of earshot. "Only when he's awake," I said. "He can't lift a toolbox, but he's great at lifting credit. Real talent." Logan cracked up, but you could see him mentally filing the moment away. People notice more than you think. As I loaded up the truck, I caught myself thinking about how many times this same song and dance had played out over the years. I do the work, Grant takes the spotlight, and my parents nod along like he's some prodigy guiding the company through economic storms with the power of his vocabulary. I could feel something tightening in my chest. Not emotional, just that fed-up sense when you realize everyone around you is committed to pretending the sky is green. And I knew the conversation about the business's future was coming soon. It was like this heavy cloud hanging right above the shop. And no matter how many jobs I crushed or clients I kept loyal, I already knew how it was going to go. This chapter of my life was starting to feel worn out, and I was starting to wonder how much longer I'd let them keep me invisible. A couple days after the big job, my dad, Howard, tells me he wants to talk about the future. When he says that, it usually means I'm about to hear a speech, not have a conversation. We sit in the office, me in the cheap folding chair, him and Mary Ann in the nice ones. Perfect setup already. Howard clears his throat like he's about to read a proclamation. "Dylan, your brother Grant will be taking over the business when I retire." No build-up, no discussion, just straight to it. Grant is sitting on the side, pretending he wasn't waiting for this moment since birth. He's leaning back, smirking like someone just announced he won an award he campaigned for behind the scenes. Howard keeps going. It makes sense. He's the oldest. He has the degree. He understands the structure and long-term viability of the company. Translation: he likes clipboards and big words. Mary Ann jumps in with a supportive wife voice she uses whenever she wants to shut down any disagreement without sounding mean. Your father has thought about this a long time. She says, this is the logical choice. Grant adds, it's really about strategy. You know, leading the company into the next phase. He says this with the confidence of someone who would forget which wrench to hand me if I asked. I let them talk. Once they finish congratulating themselves, I speak. I'm not asking to be the boss, I say. I'm asking for a stake. Some ownership. A say in how things move forward. I'm the one out in the field keeping the work alive. You know that. Grant gives a fake sympathetic nod like he's comforting a toddler. Dylan, you're great at the physical side, but ownership requires a different skill set. It's not personal. It's literally personal. I say, this is a family business. Howard leans forward. Your role is valuable, but Grant has the qualities needed to run things long term. You'll still have a job here, and after I'm gone, you'll get your share of money. You don't need to worry. That line hits me louder than anything else. After he's gone, so my entire future is basically, wait until your dad dies. Good to know. I keep my voice steady. So, I'm not family enough for ownership, but I'm family enough to be told to be grateful. Howard frowns like I'm being unreasonable. Don't twist my words. I'm doing what's best for the business. You're overreacting. And that's when it clicks. They don't see me as someone who helped build this place. They see me as the guy who does the work they don't want to do. A pair of hands, not a partner. Grant finishes things off with one more arrogant line. You'll still be part of the team, Dylan, just in the right capacity. Right capacity meaning the one that keeps him comfortable. I stand up, then I guess I know where I stand. Acre Howard says something about keeping things professional, but I stop listening. They made the decision long before this meeting. I was just there to be informed like an employee getting a schedule update. A few hours later when I'm heading to my truck, Mary Ann walks out of the building like she'd been waiting for her moment. Dylan, honey, can we talk? I brace myself. Moms don't call you honey unless they're about to adjust your attitude. She steps closer, all gentle tone. I know today was hard. I want to understand what you're feeling. I nod because sure, let's see where this goes. She sighed softly, hand on my arm. I think you're taking this too personally. Your father knows what he's doing. He's planning for everyone's best interest. There it is, not even 2 sentences in, and I'm already the unreasonable one. I'm not taking it personally, I say. I just want to be valued the same way you value Grant. Her expression shifts into that calm but cutting mode she uses when she wants to set me straight. You're being dramatic. Your brother has qualities you don't. And that's okay. You should focus on your strengths and stop making this hard for us. For us. Not for you. Not for the business. For them. She keeps going. This isn't something you need to challenge. Just accept the role your father believes suits you. He's thought this through more than you have. She says it like she's giving me a life lesson. Like she's the wise guide in a movie. Except everything coming out of her mouth is dismissive and a soft wrapper. I let her finish. I don't interrupt. I don't argue. When she pauses, expecting some grateful reply, I just say, got it. She smiles like she fixed me. Good. I knew you'd understand. She walks away satisfied, and I stand there realizing this wasn't a conversation. It was damage control. Not for my sake, for theirs. They weren't listening. They weren't considering anything. They were managing me, filing me back into the box labeled does the work, doesn't question decisions. And that's when the last bit of patience I had for the whole situation finally burned out. After the talk with my parents, something in me switched off. Not dramatic, just final. I walked into the shop the next morning, went straight to my dad's office, and handed him my 2 weeks' notice. I'm old school about paperwork. I keep hard copies of everything I sign, tucked in a battered folder behind the truck seat. No speech, no emotion, just here. My last day will be this date. Howard looked up from his computer like I'd interrupted a historic negotiation instead of a crossword puzzle. 2 weeks, he said, eyebrows raised. You sure about this? Pretty sure, I said. He leaned back, acting thoughtful. Well, if this is about money, I can give you a small raise. A modest one. You've earned that. The number he offered was so low it almost made me laugh. It wasn't a raise. It was spare change with a bow on it. I'm good, I said. My decision's made. He shrugged like losing me was equivalent to losing a paperclip. All right, we'll manage. Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Word got to Grant within minutes because he appeared in the doorway acting like someone had invited him to celebrate. So, you're leaving? He said, arms crossed, smug in full force. Didn't see that coming. He absolutely saw that coming. I nodded. Yep. He clicked his tongue. Hope you've got a plan. The field isn't exactly overflowing with opportunities for your type of work. My type, I repeated. Right, he smirked, enjoying himself. Well, I'll take over the field operations until we find someone else. Shouldn't be too hard. I didn't bother responding. Grant taking over the field was like a cat taking over air traffic control. Then the game started. By lunch, I got a new schedule notification courtesy of Grant filled with nothing but pointless side jobs. Stuff nobody cares about. Stuff that doesn't matter. Stuff he normally pawns off on random temp workers. I noticed one glaring thing. None of my remaining assignments included Logan's site, which was funny because I'd been the lead on that account for years. I walked past Grant's desk on my way out. He pretended not to see me, tapping dramatically on his keyboard like he was managing a global crisis. The next day, same thing. Another schedule update. More busy work, more filler jobs, more attempts to keep me occupied in places where no one important would see me. I'd barely set foot on the main floor before I got called to fix a rusted-out secondary unit that hadn't been used since I was 19. After 2 hours of that nonsense, Grant appeared behind me with a clipboard. "Good progress," he said like he had any idea what he was looking at. "Tomorrow, I need you to train our new hire. He's very green, so go slow." I turned around. "New hire? Since when?" "Since today." He said. "Dad and I agreed it was time to expand the team. You can show him the ropes before you head out." Translation: keep Dylan busy. Give him zero interaction with the client. Make him feel irrelevant before he leaves. I looked him in the eye. "You want me to train someone in 1 week for a job that takes months to learn?" "Exactly." He said. "Do your best. You know, be a team player." A team player. Coming from him. Good one. The newbie Austin was harmless. Nice enough, but clueless. He didn't know the equipment names, didn't know procedure, didn't know basic safety. The poor guy didn't even bring gloves. He showed up excited to learn, not realizing Grant threw him at me like a sandbag. I didn't take it out on him. He wasn't the problem. I taught him what I could without wasting both our time. Grant hovered a couple times, pretending to check in, but I could tell he was really just making sure I wasn't anywhere near a Logan project. The real kicker was when I overheard him telling another employee in the hallway, "We'll be fine once Dylan's gone. He's not essential. Never was. Just a field hand." He said it loud enough to make sure I heard it. Classic Grant. Quiet digs weren't enough. He needed an audience. I didn't stop or turn or react. I just walked past him and kept moving. But inside, I added another tally mark to the very full column labeled "Reasons I'm leaving." The rest of the week was the same. Pointless assignments, busy work, urgent tasks nobody cared about, zero access to the big client. Grant reshuffling my day like a puzzle called "How to Erase Dylan Before He's Even Gone." By the 4th day, I didn't even check the schedule anymore. I just waited for whatever new attempt at sabotage Grant dreamed up that morning. I stayed professional, did the work, clocked in, clocked out. But my patience was on fumes, and Grant could tell, which probably made him feel powerful. That was fine. Let him enjoy it. A few more days and he wouldn't have me to micromanage anymore. When Friday hit, I sat in my truck for a moment before driving home, watching the shop through the windshield. One more week. Just one. I wasn't sad. I wasn't second-guessing anything. I was just tired of pettiness coming from people who were shocked I no longer wanted to break my back for them. Grant could keep playing king of the empty throne. I was already halfway gone. My last week rolled in with the same pattern. Grant piling nonsense on my schedule and me doing the work anyway because I'm not about to end my time there looking sloppy. If anything, I worked cleaner and sharper just to make sure Grant couldn't spin anything when I was gone. Even with him trying to bury me under pointless tasks, I still needed to stop by one of the sites where Logan was checking on equipment. The only reason I got that assignment was because the newbie, Austin, didn't know which end of a tool to hold yet, and even Grant realized letting him handle expensive machinery would be a lawsuit waiting to bloom. When I walked in, Logan looked at me like he hadn't expected to see me at all. "Hey, you're actually here," he said. "Grant told me you were tied up on other stuff." "I magically became available," I said. He raised an eyebrow, catching the tone instantly, but not pushing. He just stepped aside so I could get to work. Even when I was technically on my way out, he treated me like the guy he trusted most on the job, because that's exactly what I'd been for years. While I checked the panel and reset one of the units, he stood nearby, arms crossed. "I got to tell you something," he said like it had been sitting with him a while. "We've been having issues with your brother lately." I didn't react, just waited for him to keep going. "It's been stuff like delays on paperwork, wrong forms, pricing that doesn't match what we talked about, scheduling getting messy, and he's not the easiest to deal with." He phrased it politely, but the meaning was obvious. Grant had been pulling his usual arrogance routine. Logan sighed. "Honestly, man, you're the reason this runs smooth. When you're here, things get done right." He rubbed his jaw. "I've been sending Victor the downtime reports. He's been asking what it would take to bring this in-house." I tightened one bolt and said nothing for a second. It wasn't that the compliment surprised me. It just wasn't something I ever heard from my own family, even though they relied on my work more than anyone. Yeah, I finally said. I try to keep things simple. And we notice, Logan said. A lot more than you think. I nodded and closed the panel. Inside, that comment hit harder than I expected. Not emotional, just confirming what I'd known for years. I was the one holding the fieldwork together. Everyone saw it except the people who should have valued it most. Later that afternoon, I stopped by the shop to drop off a form. As I walked past the office, Grant's voice echoed from inside one of the rooms. He was on the phone, sounding authoritative the way he does when he wants to impress someone. "Dylan, he's just the labor guy," he said. "Not reliable long-term. Well, be better off once he's replaced." I stopped mid-step. "Just the labor guy. Not reliable long-term." He said it like fact. Like it wasn't coming from the man who couldn't fix a jammed unit if you handed him instructions and a flashlight. He didn't know I was there, and I didn't announce myself. I didn't jump in or start a fight. I just stood there for a moment, taking it in, letting it confirm what I already understood. That was who Grant was. Strip away the polished vocabulary, the leadership tone, the fake confidence. He needed me gone so he could pretend he was capable. I walked away without making a sound. When I stepped outside, I checked my phone and saw a forwarded message from another employee. It was a copy of a note Grant sent to a vendor. "Dylan won't be a major point of contact anymore. He's more temporary labor than lead tech. Temporary labor after a decade keeping the whole place functioning." I didn't reply. I didn't confront him. I just filed it into the same folder in my mind where I stored every quiet insult he tossed my way over the years. The next morning at the client site, Logan and I were finishing up another small fix when he said, "So, you're really leaving, huh?" "Yeah," I said. "Just time for something else." He waited, maybe expecting a story, but I wasn't about to dump my family drama onto him. "No big reason," I added. "Just moving on." He looked at me for a moment, like he didn't fully buy the simplicity, but respected the boundary. "Well, sucks for us," he finally said. "You've been the difference between a mess and a working system more times than I can count." "Appreciate it," I said. He didn't say anything else right away. Just stood there with this thoughtful look, like gears were turning somewhere behind his eyes. Not in a dramatic way, just the expression of a guy putting together pieces he'd been noticing for a while. I wiped my hands on a rag, packed the tools, and headed out. As I walked toward my truck, I could feel it. The client side was paying attention more than my family ever did. They saw who did the work. They saw who kept things running. They saw who was actually worth something. And it was clear they weren't just going to shrug and say, "Good luck out there." There was something building, something shifting. I just didn't know yet how big. 2 days before my last shift, I got assigned to one more visit at the client's main facility. Probably another keep Dylan busy move from Grant, but joke's on him. This was one place he actually needed me because nobody else on our team could fix half the stuff in that building without calling me every 10 minutes. I walked in, toolbox in hand, expecting to see Logan waiting like usual. Instead, standing beside him was Victor Hale, his boss. Victor's the kind of guy who doesn't waste motion or words. Calm face, sharp eyes, press shirt even on dusty sites. He nodded once when I approached. "Dylan," he said, "good timing." Logan gave me a little smile that told me this wasn't a normal visit. Something was brewing. Victor didn't start with small talk. "We've been having issues with this unit," he said, pointing to one of the high-end machines. "Walk me through what's going wrong." No greeting, no warm-up. Straight to the exam. "Fine by me." I crouched down and opened the panel. "This model overheats when the alignment drifts even a little," I said. "And whoever last worked on it, probably someone trying to impress my brother, tightened the housing wrong." I tapped the misaligned bracket. "This causes the internal sensor to read false pressure spikes." Victor watched without reacting, hands in pockets. Logan stood behind him like a referee, trying not to influence the match. I loosened the housing, realigned the bracket, tightened it fast and clean. "There. Sensor should read accurate now. If it doesn't, I'll recalibrate, but 9 times out of 10, this is the reason." And I hit the power. The machine hummed to life perfectly. Victor glanced at Logan. Logan nodded like, "See, this is what I was talking about." As I closed the panel, I added, "If Grant sent someone else for this, you'd probably have a 2-hour delay and an invoice blaming the manufacturer. So, congratulations. You got the upgraded service package today." Logan snorted. Victor actually cracked a small smile. Not big, but enough to say he appreciated someone who didn't dance around the truth. He stepped closer. "You know your work," he said simply. "That's the idea," I replied. Victor didn't rush. He let the moment settle like he wanted to be absolutely certain before he spoke again. "Then what would it take for you to run this in-house for us? No fluff, no flattery, just straight to the point." I wiped my hands on a rag. "Depends what you're offering." Victor raised an eyebrow. "Before I offer anything, I want your number, your conditions." But most people would freeze at that question, start stuttering or lowball themselves. I didn't. I'd been undervalued for years. I knew exactly what I was worth, so I listed it clean. I'd want a 3-year contract, locked pay. I want to choose the equipment because I'm not using trash. I want 2 people under me that I hire myself. And if I'm running this department, I want the title and the responsibility, not a pretend one. Victor studied me. And salary. I told him the number. Not exaggerated, not timid, just honest value. Logan's eyes widened slightly, but in the good way that he actually said it way. Victor didn't blink. He nodded, impressed. Reasonable. More reasonable than I expected, actually. He glanced at the line, humming. Every hour that line stalls, we burn 6 figures. I have a standing budget to fix that. HR will paper the details. I want to know if you want the chair. I'm not trying to be a billionaire, I said. Just match the work. He crossed his arms. Fair enough. Here's what I can offer you. Then he laid it out. A 3-year contract, pay well above the industry high end, full benefits, an office equipment budget under my control. 2 hires of my choosing, straight reporting line to him. No middle nonsense. It wasn't a job offer. It was a full blueprint for my own department. Logan looked excited, like he'd been waiting for this. Victor looked like a man who'd already decided, but wanted to give me space to think. I took a breath, not because I was overwhelmed, but because I wanted to answer the right way. I'll think about it, I said. Victor nodded once. Good. I don't want desperation. I want clarity. He wasn't testing me anymore. He was respecting me. We shook hands. Not over the deal, over the understanding that a deal could happen. As I walked out to my truck afterward, toolbox swinging at my side, I didn't feel shocked or confused, just steady. I had options now. Real ones, ones I earned. And even though I said I'd think about it, the truth was already settled in my chest. Yeah, I was taking it. I figured if I was going to take the job with Victor, I'd tell my family before anything was official. Not because they deserved the heads up, but because I'm not sneaky. I wanted it done clean, face to face. I picked the next morning to break the news, but the night before, Howard pulled me aside like he'd been waiting for his window. I was walking through the shop, grabbing a tool case when he called out, "Dylan, got a minute?" His tone wasn't the usual clipped business first tone. It was soft, careful, like he suddenly remembered how to sound like a dad. I turned. "What's up?" He stepped closer, folding his arms like he was about to deliver wisdom. "I know things have been tense, but you need to understand something." He paused, giving the speech some dramatic weight. Family comes first. There it was. Not an apology. A command wrapped in sentiment. I didn't answer, so he kept going. "You have to remember who gave you a job, who trained you, who made sure you always had a place here." His expression hardened. "Your brother needs you. This business needs you. Don't forget that because you're upset." I stood there letting him talk, catching every line for what it was. Guilt, not understanding, expectation, not respect. Control dressed up as care. Nothing changed. Not an inch. No acknowledgement of what I'd built. No ownership of how they dismissed me. Just I owe them indefinitely. Because family. Anything else? I asked when he finally stopped. Howard blinked, thrown by my tone. "No, I just wanted to say that before you do anything foolish." "Right," I said. "Good to know." I walked away before he could say more. Whatever I had left of maybe they'll understand evaporated right there on the concrete. The next morning, I went into the office early. Howard, Marianne, and Grant were already gathered. Like someone sounded the family meeting alarm. "Good. Saved me time. I'm taking another job," I said. Direct. No room for misinterpretation. "I've got an offer from the Brooks account. I'm accepting it." The reaction was instant. Howard's face went red. "Absolutely not." Marianne gasped like I'd announced I was joining a biker gang. "Dylan, you can't do that. After everything we've done for you." Grant just leaned back in the chair, that smug grin spreading. "You do realize you signed a non-compete, right?" There it was. He couldn't just let Dad yell. He had to add his own brand of manipulation. "No, I didn't," I said. "I checked my copies last night. Every agreement I've ever signed." "Show me where it is then." "What?" Grant blinked. "The non-compete. Show it to me right now." He froze. No folder, no document, no saved PDF, nothing. Because it didn't exist. I stepped closer. "You made it up, didn't you?" Grant's jaw tightened, trying to hold the lie together. But he had nothing. Silence did the job for him. Howard didn't miss a beat though. "Regardless of paperwork, you owe loyalty to this family. You can't just leave because you feel overlooked." I laughed once. Short, humorless, overlooked. "You told me the entire business goes to Grant because of tradition and a college degree that doesn't even apply to what we do." Marianne tried soft-voiced guilt again. "Your father knows what's best. You shouldn't betray the family over something this emotional." "Emotional, right?" I looked at all 3 of them. Not angry, Just done. You want loyalty without giving any. You want my work, my time, my silence, but none of my say. And now that someone else sees value in me, suddenly, you care. Interesting timing. Howard slammed a hand on the desk. You're being disrespectful. No, I said steady. I'm being clear. Grant finally snapped. You're leaving us to fall apart. Selfish. Completely selfish. I turned to him. The only person you care about is yourself, and you're terrified that when I'm gone, people will finally see what you actually bring to the field. His face twisted like he'd been punched, even though my tone never rose once. I grabbed my bag off the chair. I'm done here. Mary Ann reached out like she wanted to pull me back with words alone. Dylan, don't walk out in the middle of a discussion. This wasn't a discussion, I said. It never was. I walked out before any of them could throw another line at me. No yelling, no dramatic door slam, just a quiet exit they couldn't control. And outside, standing beside my truck in the morning air, I pulled out my phone and called Victor. Morning, Dylan, he answered. I'm in, I said. Good, Victor replied. Legal already cleared conflicts. No non-solicit, no non-compete on your side. HR will send the packet today. Your pay starts now. No point paying you to sit in an empty room. I spent the first few mornings waking up and not immediately feeling annoyed. No toxic workflow from Grant. No family first lectures. No pretending the shop wasn't falling apart unless I held it together. Just silence, coffee, and actual breathing room. When people asked how the downtime felt, I just said, it's nice not being irritated before sunrise. Simple, but true. By the time the equipment finally arrived, I was more than ready to get moving again. Walking into the new building on my first official day felt different. Not overwhelming, not flashy, just normal in a way I never got at the family business. Clean floors, air conditioning that didn't sound like it was powering a jet. Assigned parking so I wasn't circling the block fighting delivery vans for space. The workspace Victor set aside for me was open and organized, not cramped and chaotic like the Pierce shop. And the office they gave me, small but solid. Desk, storage, a door that actually closed, even a mini fridge. I wasn't starstruck by it. I just looked around and thought, yeah, this is how a place that values people operates. No drama, no power games, no one acting like they're doing me a favor by letting me exist. Victor walked me through the final details. It's your department, he said. Build it how you want. Let me know what else you need. In the first week, I finalized the equipment order. Real gear, not the bargain bin stuff my dad always bought because it's good enough. I picked out what worked, what lasted, and what would keep production moving without constant repairs. Next on the list, hiring 2 workers. I interviewed a small group. Victor told me to trust my instincts, so I did. I picked Raymond Sadto, who'd been laid off from another company but knew his tools, and Corey Lane, younger but sharp and willing to learn without acting like he already knew everything. Within a few days, they were on payroll. I trained them the way a real leader should. Clear instructions, no ego, no treating them like pack mules. I showed them how the equipment worked, why certain alignments mattered, how to avoid the mistakes that eat up time. They picked it up fast, and within the month, the 3 of us were running the in-house setup smoothly. Every day felt straightforward. Work hard, solve problems, go home without carrying bitterness. Wild concept. I hadn't spoken to my family since the day I walked out. No announcement, no dramatic texts, no long paragraphs. I just didn't reach out, and they didn't either. It wasn't a grudge. It was peace, something I hadn't had in a long time. About 3 weeks into my new job, Logan pulled me aside during a walkthrough. Thought you'd want to know, he said quietly. Right after you left, your dad and brother called Victor, tried to talk him out of hiring you. I didn't even flinch. That sounded exactly like something they do. Fight to keep control only after realizing they lost it. How'd Victor respond? I asked. Logan smirked. He hung up. That was it. One clean motion, phone down, conversation over. I didn't say much, but inside that confirmed every decision I'd made. I left a place that relied on manipulation and stepped into one that recognized competence. Later, I heard through my cousin Tessa that the Pierce business was downsizing. A couple smaller clients had closed their doors, and without the big one I now worked for, Howard had to lay off employees. Good people who didn't deserve the fallout. I felt bad for them. The rest, not so much. Decisions have consequences, especially when you bet everything on the son who can't fix a jammed sensor. The week before, Tessa told me they had lost 2 more accounts. About 2 months into my new role, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered out of habit. Dylan, a familiar voice said. Howard? He spoke casually like we hadn't ended things with a shouting match. Been thinking, he said. I want to offer you a partnership. I leaned back in my chair. Uh-huh. What kind? Well, he said, we could work out a small ownership percentage. You'd still report to Grant, of course. He'd handle decisions, but you'd have a stake. I think it's a fair compromise. So, nothing changed. A tiny scrap of ownership, no authority, still under Grant. A partnership in name only. I almost laughed, not angrily, just out of disbelief that he thought this was tempting. Dad, I said calmly, you already picked your future. Stick with it. He didn't respond right away. Maybe he expected me to be grateful for leftovers. This is a serious offer, he finally said. So is my answer, I replied. I'm doing fine where I am. He tried one more line about family unity, but it rolled right past me. I ended the call politely and went back to work. That night, sitting in my office finishing paperwork, I thought about everything that led there. Not in a dramatic way, just connecting the dots. I didn't wreck anything. I didn't betray anyone. I didn't steal clients or scheme behind anyone's back. I just stopped accepting a role that kept me small. They chose how they treated me. I chose not to stay for it. Simple as that. A year later, the department I built is running better than I ever imagined. My team's solid, my name's on every project, and no one talks over me to take credit anymore. The Pierce business. Last I heard, they're barely keeping the lights on. Grant's still pretending it's a transition period, and my parents still act like they didn't choose this ending. I don't hate them. I just don't owe them anything. Turns out peace isn't about winning. It's about finally walking away from people who only clap for themselves when you do the work. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.